Wednesday, and it was raining in the morning, so we were afraid that they would tell us no machine time, but the rain stopped. It was just drizzling pretty much. And one task from the book I did not do yet is backfilling. So, and then I go on the board and it says fuel station. What fuel station? It's not even in the book. And they said, yeah, we know. So basically some kind of illegal activity. But what it is basically is, they said 4 buckets wide. So that's what we're doing. We're taking the material from that windrow or that pile, and we're making it 4 buckets wide. And they said lengthwise, like how many rows you put on, you basically you decide yourself. But I think it should be at least 2 rows like this, because the idea with this fuel station is it's like a pedestal for a fuel tank, you know? Right, so it's a raised platform, kind of like we did the berm, but the berm is basically, it's a long pile of material, where here it's supposed to be a platform, right? After I'm done with it, and then they said I have to flatten the top. So the other guy, we're doing the same task, and he's way ahead of me, even though his machine has a much smaller bucket. But I don't want to make it any wider than it already is. So yeah, basically I do a lot of movements, because I think I was doing better with that John Deere, because on the John Deere your forward and reverse are on the right here, whereas here you have to constantly change your hands. So that's what we're doing today. And I only have 2 more days, so Thursday, Friday. So Thursday I'm writing a final quiz, and they should give me the certificate of completion of the course. And Friday, they're having some kind of a corporate meeting, so all our instructors have to leave. And so they said Friday, instead of starting at 6:45 like our toolbox meeting, as they call it, like instruction meeting before the machine time, they said we have to come in at at 6:15. And so we'll be in the machines probably at 6:30, and then we have to shut down at 10:30, and that will be my last day of training. And I found an interesting website today. I was actually started using Google instead of this Indeed, you know, like dedicated websites, because it turns out if you search on Google, it shows you much more results. It shows you all these individual websites. You know, so if you see it on Google, then you can go to those websites like Workapolis and Indeed, and while searching on Google, I think my pile is already big enough, so just trying to make it level.
Keep going, keep going, keep going. Yeah, that's good. Slick down there, eh? Oh yeah.
I have to add more. I have to do, or maybe I'll do it this one, because I don't want to go in there because he's driving in there. So yeah, I didn't find any job yet, but I'm sending 3-4 resumes every day. Whenever I see something interesting. And on this thing I cannot find the wipers. Half of the switches are broken. John Deere is in better shape. So like with these loaders, at the end you have to do like this. When you're backing, you have to start turning in the opposite direction, right? Because it articulates. So like in the end you have to do this, and it's hard to do here where the shifter is on the steering wheel, but that's what I learned, especially on the John Deere. to the left, right? And then at the last moment you start turning. To save on movements. Man, it's really hard to see. I think it started drizzling again.
Yeah, just make a pass and tether everything out and call it good, okay? 10-4.
Shoot, so they're shutting us down. I didn't finish my fuel station, but I had an idea, so I did 2 rows and then I was putting one more between them, and it would be nice. It would be about 5 feet wide, and then I wanted to flatten it with my bucket to make like a platform. I see what the other guy was doing there. So, but it has to be pretty tall, basically, for a fuel tank to sit there. But yeah, they're saying it keeps drizzling and it's getting wet. You know, they don't want to haul, they don't want to see the excavators. They told them to put everything back. Yeah, so let us go. They made us park probably what, around 9 o'clock. So I only got 2 hours in the machine. So I'm gonna see right in my log. So loader, Volvo. What we were doing, building a fuel island. And time today is 9/20. So tomorrow the weather should be good, and tomorrow I'm writing my final exam. So that's why I'm bringing the book with me today. Usually we leave it here because they're so heavy. We just leave these big binders in the classroom, but yeah, very miserable weather, and plus, as you saw on my machine, the rocker switch was missing to activate the windshield wipers. And it was very hard to see anything. So this is the school, and right next to us is a aggregate plant, and there's a humongous, I think it's a John Deere, like a huge loader working there, loading the bins and loading trucks. And I was thinking quite a few times, so maybe I should go there, ask them about a job, you know. But I see they only have one loader, but maybe they need like an assistant or a helper or something, I don't know. Because yeah, I'm slightly getting worried. I was lying in bed thinking about this, like, you know, who will hire me, right? They will probably ask me, how long do you expect to work if you are, you know, 61 years old? But I would say, you know, like 3-5 years, I don't know, till I pay off my debts, my lines of credit, my Visa cards, because I didn't work for a year. And yeah, and I had a load on my freight broker side. One of my contacts reached out for a quote. It was a small skid steer, like a bobcat, you know. And it was like 12,000 pounds, you know, 7 feet wide or 6 feet wide. No, 7 feet wide, 6 feet tall, like a, you know, partial load, right? And the guy asked me for a quote. I found one expensive carrier, one cheap carrier, and then he says, and then the guy disappears. No acknowledgement, you know, when I send him the quote. No answer. And 1 week passes by. People are emailing me, so what happened to that load? I say, I don't know, the guy disappeared. And then all of a sudden, he emails me at 5 a.m. my time, 7 a.m. in Ontario, and he says, okay, the machine is ready, it's sold. We sold that little bobcat to a customer, so now we have to, you know, kind of like regular stuff, you know, either you rush, hurry up and wait, right? So now he wants to ship it ASAP. When can you load? Are you still okay on that rate? And I said, yeah, we're okay on that rate, but that guy is gone from there, right? You know, that's the problem with these quotes, right? You ask me for a quote, and the first thing truckers ask is, when is it loading, right? Because we're not gonna sit in that, let's say, Texas, right? Like, okay, Houston, Texas, right? I ask people for a quote for on a load coming out of Houston, Texas, but they have the truck there today. They're not gonna sit there 5 days, 7 days, right? They'll find something, or they're gonna drive empty to another place where there's a load, right? And so now this shipper, right, says, okay, can you load basically tomorrow? So I emailed the guy who gave me the nice rate that this guy accepted, and that guy kind of like laughs at me, you know. But I said, hey, I'm on your side, you know. I was a trucker myself, so he says, yeah, I don't have a truck there right now, but it'll be there in the middle of next week. I said, the rate is still okay, the same rate you gave me? He says, yeah. And so I emailed the shipper. I say, hey, I have a cheap truck that you agreed to. He's not there anymore, so next Wednesday he can load. And this guy is like, what, you don't have anybody there tomorrow? No. But then some other guy emails me. He says, okay, he's gonna do it for like $1,000 more. he can load tomorrow. So I emailed the shipper, say, okay, here's your two choices: expensive truck tomorrow or cheap truck next week. Again, no answer, nothing. And I said, yeah, and full prepayment is required. Okay, so I want the shipper to prepay me, because I promised, since, you know, I'm a new broker, right? People don't know me. If they don't know if they can trust me, and of course they cannot factor me like what I used to do when I was a trucker, right? I use a factoring company, but they check your credit, right? So especially if you're a new broker, nobody will factor for me. Actually, one guy told me, he says, hey, I checked with my factoring company, they said they cannot factor your load. I said, yeah, I know, I will pay you upon delivery. You know, I said, like, what, this cheap guy, that the cheap truck that was supposed to pick up this Bobcat, I said, he says, what are the payment terms? And I said, if the load gets accepted, I'll try to get a prepayment from the shipper, so that I pay you, I'll send you a wire transfer upon delivery. Like, something is going on with my, you know, there's sensors everywhere, right? Camera sensors here that it has an emergency braking. And it's either because of the rain or maybe some dust sometimes gets on the camera. It's off. It's off, and then it says, yeah, like you have these warning lights. I hate that. Too many sensors on these, you know, new cars. Anyway, I think today I'm going for Chinese buffet again, even though it's a bit expensive, like 22 bucks, but the food is great. And they open at 11. And so yeah, today you see we did, because of the weather, we only did a couple of hours in the machines. And then, but 2 hours in the classroom. And so now I'm gonna go for lunch and then go back to my hotel and study the Bible, as I call it, and get ready for the tomorrow's exam, because there's a lot of numbers you have to remember, you know, like how far to park your material from the trench, 3 feet, you know, like there's a bunch of rules that you have to know. So, and we are back in Innisfail. So I'm guessing that's it. So finishing and the training this week. Oh, and when I'm at the hotel, definitely will check again all the online sites where they post jobs. I'm applying everywhere. I don't care. Fly in, fly out, Nunavut. As long as they provide a camp and give you a fly in, fly out, I'll go. Alright, here's the buffet. Actually, it's already 10:57. So we'll just wait till the light turns on, open. What a miserable weather. So just the Chinese buffet was closed. Turns out today they're not open. So went to McDonald's, and as I was waiting for my order, I read some comments on my channel, and somebody was saying, like, there were some comments about instructors, and yeah, the thing is, there's only 2 instructors. There was one, and then they brought this retired guy who was
like 40 years in construction. He retired a couple of years ago and he came back as a teacher or instructor. And so there's only 2 of them, right? And so they give you the task in the morning, and then they give you a very brief, you know, like, I don't know, 2-minute explanation of what to do. And you go get your machine, you do the pre-trip inspection, you make sure it has fuel. If it doesn't have fuel, you tell them on the radio, and they tell you to go to the fuel island where one of the instructors fills you up. So they don't allow you to fill up the machine yourself, right? And then they tell you, and they also tell you where you're gonna do your task, right? Because there's some parts of that field are for excavators, some are for graders. Like loaders, we're usually in the back there, away from everybody. And today was, yeah, they told me fuel station. Okay, so I found one of the instructors. I said, what do you want me to do? And he explained to me, he says 4 buckets wide, 5 feet tall. And I was confused by that term, buckets. Like, do you mean the width of my bucket, or do you mean just one scoop from the bucket? Because I can put like 4 like this, right? But he probably he meant the full width of my bucket, and then make it as basically as long as you want, as long as it can look at as a platform, and then flatten it, right? And then what happens is basically they give you this brief instruction, then they go away, and then usually in an hour, a couple of hours, they come back in a truck and they watch you. Or if it's the good weather, the guy just walks over and he watches you, right? If he has any comments, or if he you know, thinks that you're doing something wrong, he'll tell you, right? He'll come over. I drop the bucket on the ground, put the gear in neutral, put it in park, and I open the door and we have a little chat, right? Like, okay, you should do this like this, or but they never said anything. But yeah, quite often basically you have to figure things, you know, on your own. They give you the objective, but if you have questions, you can always call them on the radio. You know, if they're not busy, you say, hey, can you please maybe come over and take a look? I just need some advice, you know. It's just that, yeah, there's not enough people. That's the problem. Like, for example, the other day there were like 6 or 8 of us working, right? And for example, grader, you know, the guy was grading the field with a grader. That's much more complicated machine than, say, a loader, right? Because you have to know your angles, your tilts, you know, pitch, you know, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, so that's how it works, right? So basically you're mostly on your own, trying to figure things out. If you have a question, you can always ask. And then classroom, usually what we do is, it's today it was early, but normally in the classroom you come in and there's they tell you what section we are studying today of this big Bible, as I call it, and it'll say page. Let's say today it was they said page 14 to 25, and the instructor is there. So we sit in the class, we read through these pages, and then we do a quiz. Like, there's a section in the book with all these quizzes or tests, right? And then we discuss with the instructor the answers, right? If somebody has a question, so basically we discuss it after the quiz is done. And usually the last part of the classroom is we watch videos. There's a bunch of videos. They have like a little laptop hooked up to a big screen monitor, and we watch videos about basically whatever the topic of that day is. Like today it was rigging, how to rig, how to prepare something for hoisting, right? Because the instructor was saying, especially for excavator operators, it's relevant, because excavators are often used to lift stuff at the site, right? And asking about loaders, they said, yeah, loaders quite often are used for that purpose as well, where they, you know, they change the bucket for forks, right? And then they can use all these slings and stuff like that. And so that's what we were learning, like types of materials used for rigging, you know, what's the slings are made of, type of slings, all that kind of good stuff. And and the interesting was we went over all these signals, you know, that I used in when you act as a crane and they tell you what to do, you know, like stop, you know, like turn your house this way, you know, boom up, boom down. So it was good. And that's it. So they left us today early, but that's what the day usually is. So machine time in the morning, 7 to 11 or 11:30, and then we have a lunch break, and then we come back 1 o'clock, 1 to 2:30. We do a classroom, and so that's it. So Wednesday, so I only have 2 days left. Man, I really should pick up, you know, my application activities, you know, like applying for jobs. But so far nobody even called me for an interview, right? But of course I'm here, I'm busy, so maybe somebody's calling, but my phone is off because we're not supposed to carry phones in the machines when we doing the tasks, so that's how it works, right? But all in all, I think it was worth it, because I understand these machines are expensive, fuel is expensive. Like I was looking at even like this Volvo old loader, it says 6 liters per hour, right? So let's say we do it 5 hours, so that's 30 liters of diesel. And so here I think it's like $1.40 Canadian per liter, so it was like 50 bucks for 1 day in fuel. And then of course there's maintenance, they have their own mechanic there. When something is not working, he's supposed to fix it, you know. And then of course the property, it's a big property, and this company, they have 3 sites. They have 2 sites in Alberta, and I think one is in Edmonton, one is this one in Innisfail or Red Deer, and then they have one more where it's actually the head office is. It's in British Columbia in BC. So yeah, it's expensive stuff, you know, like machinery, right? So that's why the rates are so high. But hopefully I'll be able to find a job after this. I don't know. I was even thinking maybe anything to do with equipment, you know, maybe somebody would hire me to sell heavy equipment, but now I would have to redo my entire resume and just show that I have sales skills, whereas now my resume is totally geared towards you know, I show my trucking experience and how I worked with heavy equipment when loading, unloading, and how now I'm finishing my training. But so for now the focus is to try and find a job in construction as an operator. I'm shooting for either a loader or a rock truck. Rock truck I did a classroom training on, right? I didn't have any time in the cab, but I drove the semi truck for 17 years. I think that should count for something. So anyway, sorry for the long video. Thanks for watching. Now back to the hotel, enjoy some warmth and hot coffee.